So, Chris, it's come to my attention that this past week we both went and saw TMNT 90 in the theaters. They've
It's a good movie. You
released
seen it
it.
before? You seen it before?
Well, no, actually, this is my first time.
Well, what a
Never
way to
really.
see it.
Yeah. No, of course, we've seen TMNT 90 before. We have both openly spoken about how it is one of our favorite, not even just like comic book superhero movies. It's just one of our favorite movies to watch.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's so good, and it holds up completely, like 100%. Like
Totally.
so it actually, and they've extended the run too, which actually it made like $3.3 million that week it was in theaters, which is nuts to me. Like that's way more than something like that normally makes. Normally it's like 500 grand or something. Like
they announced they're going to be doing Secret of the Ooze next year, no doubt, because this one made so much money, and I'm curious if that one makes as much or does as well.
It will not. Sorry, folks. Hashtag PP. It won't. But
I mean, the general consensus is the first one is significantly better. But I mean, we've talked to us. We covered the third one on our show, so I'm sure we got into it. But like growing up as a kid, 1 and 2 were interchangeable. I watched them both all the time.
Were just the same.
And it's really over time you come to realize you grow up a little bit. Oh, this second one's catering a little bit more to the kiddos and it doesn't quite have the same tone, and you just realize how different it is. But I'm still going to go see that second one in theaters. So, do you think there's that many people that?
I think there are a lot of people who will go watch it like for the nostalgia. They'll want to take their kids to experience it. But I guess what I'll say, and I more to say after this, obviously, but like. When, we talk a lot about, like, is this actually great or is it my nostalgia? And with TMNT 90, I don't really have a lot of problems saying that, no, this is just a very, very solid attempt at making a Ninja Turtles movie that tried to keep the spirit of all the different versions intact, make it something that the parents wouldn't have to sit through as like a slog. The kids could still easily identify it as Ninja Turtles. It's dark, but not dark enough the kids can't watch it. Like, TMNT 90 kind of is that, like, lightning in a bottle type situation of, like, it's just the right combination of the right things brought to you by the director of a-ha's Take On Me music video. I don't have a lot of qualms saying that TMNT 2, a lot of that probably is nostalgia. If that makes sense. Like, TMNT 90... with the benefit of hindsight, I think is still great. Whereas when I rewatch Secret of the Ooze, I still enjoy it, but I'm a lot more willing to be like, yeah, but that's more in this case because it's just something I watched all the time as a kid. It's very clearly catering a lot more to the cartoon crowd. The weapons are almost not used at all. Yeah. The tone is lighter. It's just more during the day, like honestly, just straightforward.
I love Ernie Reyes Jr., but he's only thrown in there just to give it's like the Robin effect. Like, you give the kids someone to relate to, like they're, alongside the Turtles themselves.
Did you see him called out in the credits for TMNT 90, though?
No, he plays a turtle in the first one, right?
He does the stunts for Donatello, and it's specifically called out in the credits. It says, like, and Ernie Reyes Jr. is Donatello. Apparently, like, that's why he's in the sequel as an actual person.
Because he did such a good job.
He was such an asset on the first one.
Makes sense. It's cool. Good for him. The
Casey
first
Jones
one
still could have been in it, though. He still could have been in TMNT 2, I'm just saying.
Hey, they brought him back for the third one, and it was great. Everyone remembers it fondly. The first one is so moody. Not like in its look, like there's so much in the shadows, but it's not like muddled and like. First off, the restoration looks amazing. Like the movie has never looked better. The wrinkles on the back of their neck had never been more distinct.
Those eyes at the back of Donatello's mouth when he laughs have never been more
haunting. But there's that scene early on. I had texted you about it. Like, God, anytime Splinter talks about being a dad, it gets you. But it's like him and Raph in the sewer. Basically, their faces are the only thing lit. And he just gives them like this emotional speech about how unique he is among his brothers and that, don't forget that you'll need them. And it's like, I'm watching like animatronic puppets, but I saw it with a mutual friend, Doug, and what I said is like, I know they're suits, but when you're watching the movie, you don't see suits, you see characters. And that's the part where I think maybe nostalgia is playing a part into that. Maybe because I grew up with these, I have no problem in doing that. Maybe a kid today seeing this for the first time wouldn't connect with it and would think they're just weird rubber suits. I don't know. But that's the only part where I can think like, well, is just nostalgia talking that I think this looks amazing, or would this look like really corny to someone that didn't grow up with it?
I think it just looks good. Obviously, the quality of the suits between 1 and 2 is pretty consistent. 3.
I mean, if Star Wars holds up and all those aliens and stuff, then yeah, I guess.
But dude,
I guess so.
Just talking about Splinter's dialogue for a second, just like, dude, like I like openly wept almost any time that man went on a monologue. Just like the way, like, just when he's talking about like that conversation with Raphael, like, you know, it's like where he just talks about, he's like, I've tried to help you with your anger, but he's like, but there's still more. And he's like, and you're unique because you choose to face it alone. And he's like, but as you face it, don't forget them and don't forget me. And it's like, whoa, like the dialogue, Splinter's dialogue in this movie goes way harder than it needs to. And like, obviously
1,000%.
the line, like when he has the scene, the fireside scene where he's literally like, because what gets me about that is as a kid, you don't realize it necessarily, but as an adult, you realize Splinter thinks he's never seeing them again.
He's saying goodbye to his kids.
He's saying goodbye to them. And like, that is like, whoa, dude. Like,
yeah, dude,
like,
for me, it's whenever he's being held captive in the foot lair and he's talking to Danny.
Yeah.
And he asks him, like, don't you have anybody that cares for you, a parent? And he's like, yeah, my dad doesn't care about me. And Splinter just kind of looks away and says, all fathers care for their sons. And you tell he's thinking about his sons. And I'm like, oh, man. But what makes this movie, like, my favorite scene is probably the farm scene, because it should not work. Like, the movie just comes to a halt its momentum for like the turtles to, like, regroup, and it gives them time to, like, be sad, like Leo watching over Raph in the bathtub, or the four of them going out to the woods and meditating. Like, after Splinter appears to him, they're crying. The turtles are crying. They have tears coming down their face, and it works. It's nuts, dude. The movie's amazing.
And then obviously the stone cold delivery of Splinter, what he leaves him with, you know, death comes for us all, Orokusaki, but for you comes something much worse. For when you die, it'll be without honor. And I'm just like, dude, like,
wonderful.
And then
it totally makes up for him acting like saying the word cowabunga is a funny.
Right. Like, still one of my favorite things to do ever, though, is to just anytime I just go Bossa Nova. And everyone, you know you're in the right group, though, when someone turns to you and goes Bossa Nova. And you can go,
what's funny is that either means you're in the right group or it means you're in the wrong group, because they don't know what you're talking about or why you said Bossa Nova.
Yeah. Like, why did you say Bossa Nova, weirdo? And also Casey Jones in this movie, like, rule of cool, 1,000%. Like,
hell yeah.
I don't know who this man is. I don't know where he's come from, and I don't care. I don't want to know this. All we know is that he played professionally for about a year before he got hurt and can't play hockey anymore. But, like, genuinely, like, what's this man's job? I don't know. He can also disappear to a farm for several days, apparently. But
dude,
like,
whenever he goes to rescue Splinter and sees him for the first time, and he's a giant rat, he looks at him 2 seconds and shrugs his, okay.
Okay.
And just picks him up.
Well, at that point, he's been hanging out with 4 giant turtles. So at that point, I think you're pretty conditioned that all right, the world is not what I thought it was.
Dude, you know what I noticed for the first time ever watching it this time? So we get the flashbacks, we get the turtles' origin. Mm-hmm. But let's think about Splinter's origin. Splinter's origin is that he is a karate master's pet, and he hangs out in a bird cage. Wild.
Yes.
And he mimics his master's moves as a normal rat in Japan.
Right.
Mimics
like,
his moves and stands on 2 feet, kicks and stuff. Like, he learns karate as a normal rat. He finds turtles and the turtles get into the ooze. The movie never explicitly says that Splinter's exposed to the ooze. We can assume.
I think it's implied.
Because
like, he says he gathered them up, and they were in the ooze when he did that. So, like, I presume it's...
I assume so, but he already knew karate.
It's true. That's the thing that's like... That's the thing. Like, and this is something that's also super funny to me. Like, imagine that you're Shredder in this movie. Just like, imagine being Shredder. Yeah. Like, first off, you have a rivalry with a man over a woman. And this is in, like, the 70s? The 80s? Like, this is not, like, in, like, feudal Japan. This is a man spurned in, like, 1976. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon already exists in this world, where Shredder is a spurned ninja going after this guy's wife. And so that guy flees to America. You follow him, kill his wife and him, and then slice off the ear of his pet rat. And Splinter even makes the delivery of, like, and then he was gone and I was alone. He even makes that be like, oh, dude, this rat's alone. This is terrible. Like, this is horrible. But then you create this entire secret foot ninja group, the Foot. I remember telling my dad about the Hand, Daredevil's villains, the ninjas he fights called the Hand, and my dad's like, "Oh, like the Foot?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but
you're so close to getting it."
Fun of, wrong order. But imagine that you then found the Foot Clan. You create this entire criminal underground. Then you kidnap a giant rat. And it is still not dawned on you who this rat is.
Well, then, okay, why would it dawn on you? Why?
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Okay,
there.
all right.
But then when you're finally at the climax of all of this, and you have handily whooped all these turtles single-handedly because they don't think to fight you all at once for some reason, the rat finally appears and reveals who he is. Just imagine what had to be going through that man's brain when that happened, of just like, what?
You're 4.5 feet tall now. Anyway, I'm going to kill you.
Anyway, let me take a run at you, and out of my blind anger, I'm going to get thrown into a garbage truck that won't actually kill me, which is why Casey Jones is not in jail for the third one, because it was only attempted murder, not actual murder. But
there's, they fight on the rooftop, and the turtles go after Shredder, one at a time. And then there's this shot where they're still on the rooftop, but they're regrouping and talking about how tough he is. And so the four turtles are in the foreground strategizing, and Shredder's just in the background walking.
He's just chilling.
Like, what are you
he's
doing?
Just hanging out. Like, it's almost like it almost makes sense to me in the sense that Shredder just sees them as so little a threat that he's like, fine, take all the time you want. I'm just going to kick your ass.
Give me your best
again.
shot.
Like, I'm just going to do it again. Like, the turtles are, like, regrouping, and Shredder's just like, and I'll do it again. Like, I've got no problem with this, man. And then, anyway, we've talked about this for, like, 20 minutes now. But, anyway, it's great. I had an absolute blast watching it. Yeah, the hearing Steve Barron talk about it again was cool, and that, the thing was basically just, like, the pre-show stuff, like you said, was all kind of just an ad for a Kickstarter. But I'm more interested in, like, hearing Steve Barron's, like, full commentary for the movie that he recorded for the Arrow stuff, because I think that's gonna be
that'll be cool.
Pretty cool.
You got your set pre-ordered?
Yeah, I did Amazon because I'm just getting the regular one, and I also don't have to pay up front.
Yeah, that's fair.
And the price will eventually drop. But anyway, theme song.
We're not talking about the best of them. We're just talking about the rest of them.
Not the worst parts, but the best parts. And the best parts we have. The best of the rest.
Hello, and welcome to Best of the Rest. My name is Andrew Williams, and I am joined, as always, by my pretentious art house co-host, Chris Logan. Say something to the listeners, Chris.
Nobody ever lends money to a man with a sense of humor.
Nailed it. Each week, we take a second look at a movie that was poorly received upon release and challenge ourselves to only talk about the things we like and what the movie does well. It's Real Band Month, And this week, we are talking the 1968 film, Head.
Yes, we are.
Crit.
But can we call it a film? Is the question. Is
Hey, it
this
is
a movie?
It is a sequence of images captured on 35 millimeters. So yes, it is indeed a film. I would ask you what your history with the movie is, Chris, but I can presume that history is non-existent. There is no pre-existing history with you and this movie, I'm presuming.
There's no history with me and the Monkees. I didn't know this movie existed until you talked about it. And
you didn't even know it existed. Like, you didn't even know there was.
I didn't know the Monkees made a movie, and I certainly didn't know that movie was called Head.
Okay,
no,
I'm not judging. I'm just asking. I have no idea actually how
well known this is.
Like as it entered the zeitgeist that the Monkees made a movie. I had no idea. So I'm guessing the answer generally is probably no. But
my history with the Monkees is in Dumb and Dumber. Harry and Lloyd go to a diner, and Lloyd is looking at the songs available, and he sees the Monkees and says, "Oh, they got the Monkees. They were a major influence on the Beatles." And Harry says, "Yeah, I know," and it's hilarious.
Yes.
That's it. I know the concept of the Monkees is that they're like a pastiche of the Beatles. I don't even know what, a parody. I don't even know exactly what to call them. They had a TV show. I don't know was it a sitcom? Was it about their adventures in between concerts? Was it them performing music? I don't know anything about the show. I know they actually put out some music. I did a little bit of research about the band before we started recording, and I saw that they put out a few albums and that the members of the band slowly had more and more creative control, played their own instruments, made their own music. That's it. That's probably, I'm reaching the limit of what I know about the Monkees.
And that's about what I expected. I just knew that if we were going to do Real Band Month, there was no way I could let the month go by without doing this, because it is such a strange experiment. And we were talking before we started recording, and we started getting into some segments. I was like, whoa, hold on. Just talk about this on the show, because this is all relevant. So the show is on from 66 to 68. The immediate impact of the Monkees is almost astronomical in just how popular they became very quickly. Chekhov is added to Star Trek to counteract Davy Jones on the Monkees. That's how quickly the influence of that show is felt. Chekhov is not on Star Trek from the beginning. He's added to that show after the popularity of Davy Jones. And that's why you'll notice they look exactly the same.
What are you saying here? It's not the same actor, right?
It's not. But Davy Jones' popularity from the Monkees made them add a character that looked just like him to Star Trek.
The character of Chekhov is like a stand-in for Davy Jones?
Essentially.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And so the albums go to number 1. They do 2 albums that are all just songs from the show, because the show was a sitcom. It was a comedy, and they were not a band beforehand in the sense, and all they would do is record vocals. So they did actually sing the songs, but they weren't playing the songs, and they would get a couple of chances. Like Mike Nesmith really wanted to write songs. He had actually written a successful song before the show for Linda Ronstadt called Different Drum. And so he had actually had some success with that. And so they released 2 albums that are basically just songs from the show that they had recorded. And then they were getting kind of fed up with being called you're not real, you don't actually play your instruments, you don't do this. And it led to them recording their 3rd album, Headquarters, that was all them. It was them writing the songs, it was them largely performing the songs, and it came out and it went number 1, and it stayed at number 1 for only a week, because another album came out the next week called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Mm.
And tough to compete with that. The future albums kind of found
the student
balance.
became the master.
And yeah, exactly.
When the Beatles released it out,
they finally surpassed the Monkees.
I love this concept of there are 4 actors hired to play a band. Mm-hmm. And then people are like, "Well, you're just actors. You're not a band." And they're like, "I'll show you." That's the way you are. That's what it is.
It's interesting. It's obviously Peter Tork and Mike Nesmith had full on musical experience. Davy Jones had sang. He actually had some solo albums before that. And Mickey Dolenz was a little bit of everything. So there was musical talent there, which is why they obviously were hired for a show to play a band to be able to sing those songs. But following Headquarters and the kind of, it did really well. It's probably their best true album, although I think I like the next album, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones Limited. But after the third album, they kind of find a balance of like the band is contributing, but there's still a heavy rotation, like the Wrecking Crew and other session musicians and other writers that come in and write songs for them. Because they had a lot of people, like Neil Diamond wrote songs for the Monkees, and Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart and a bunch of other people. What I think is most interesting about Head, which I have seen before, my sister is a very big fan of the Monkees, large fan of the Monkees.
Bigger than big.
Bigger than big. Like she made a agreement with my dad when we were kids, because what happened is at the time Rhino Records, who would do a bunch of like classic rock type things, they had a VHS set of all the Monkees episodes, and it was $300. And my dad very stupidly,
dude, that's gotta be a massive set.
It was like this. It was big. It was like,
and what do you get, like 4 episodes on a tape?
Less than that. I think it was only 2 or 3. So it was like 40 tapes. It was a lot.
Jesus.
And it was tapes. It was not DVD. It was tapes.
Right.
And so my dad agreed. My sister said, if I save up half that, will you buy the other half? And my dad very stupidly said yes, thinking she wouldn't do it. Now, if he had made this deal with me, then I never would have done it. And it's fine. And he would have been okay. My sister is not me, though, especially at the time. She saved up the money, went to my dad, said, here's $150. And he was like, damn it. So she had this whole box set of the entire 2-season run of the show, which is the point I'm getting to. And so it was in there a lot, and there was television specials, and there was some other stuff, and then I think it included the movie. I don't remember. That might have been separate. But what's most interesting to me about this is that the show is only 2 seasons. It's 66 to 68. And that's it. It's 2 seasons of largely what's a sitcom with musical aspects. There's band performances in there that are glorified music videos. But it is stunningly successful. Their albums go number 1. Their songs go up the charts. The band becomes an overnight sensation to the point that they can do their own concerts and their own shows, and they're selling them out repeatedly. But by 68, they were a little disillusioned with all of it. And that's what leads to this. And that's what leads to Head. And that's kind of the message that hides in the background of the whole thing, is that by 68, because by the end of the second season of the show, the band already didn't want to keep doing it the way it was. They wanted to turn it into more like a variety show. Like, they do small skits and they'd have guest music acts. And you see some little influences of that towards the end of the run of the show. Like, they start, like, Frank Zappa shows up for an interview in one show, and you're just like, what? Like, Frank Zappa in, like, 67, 68? Like, that was a very ahead of its time thing. One of the Monkees tours actually had Jimi Hendrix as the opener. And
what?
He was booed off the stage because the audience wanted the Monkees and music like the Monkees, and they didn't want whatever Hendrix was doing. Like, Jimi Hendrix opened for the Monkees. That's a factual statement. So you can't deny that there is a popularity here, like an almost astronomical popularity. But it all comes crashing down basically in 2 years. And don't get me wrong, the band continued to release albums even after the show after the show got canceled. Members of the band would leave, and they'd record them with less and less. And they released, I think, 8 albums of that initial run. And I think 3 or 4 of them are after the show ends. And then they kind of lay dormant throughout most of the 70s. They make a comeback in the 80s. They make another comeback in the 90s. And several comebacks throughout the years with various different members involved. But Head was kind of the culmination of that original run. Like, as the popularity was, dare I say, starting to crest, they were like, let's make this movie. There was interest in it. Obviously, this was, like, again, the band still has number 1 albums and top 5 albums. And so the band is kind of keen to make a movie, but they definitely don't want that movie to just be a 90-minute episode of the television show. They don't want it to be Batman 66, where Batman 66 is basically just a long episode of Batman. They didn't want that specifically. They wanted something different. And that leads us to the stage, shall we set it? And so this movie is released on November 6th, 1968, on a budget of $750,000. The box office, believe it or not, folks, $16,111.
It makes nothing.
It
No
makes
one goes to see it.
basically nothing. It makes essentially, movies make this in a single theater in an afternoon now. It is absolutely bombs. It is a bomb in every sense of the term.
Which can't be surprising because they're very popular because of this TV show, but they make a movie that's nothing like the TV show. And then the ad for this movie, I meant to look it up on YouTube. I just I saw the description where it's just a man's close up of a man's face for 30 seconds, and towards the end he smiles and it says head on his forehead, which is apparently a send up of an Andy Warhol short film called Blowjob. That's the same thing. It's a close up of a man's face, and then you can tell by his reactions that what is happening below, and that's the entire short film. And so,
I mean, this movie is called Head. So
as far as I can tell, that's why this movie is called Head. It's an
Andy Warhol joke,
which is absolutely
tells you
lost.
the type of thing. It tells you the type of thing you're in for, though. Essentially, I think is kind of your point. Like
maybe, but like someone today, like I didn't know that. I don't,
Right.
Know Andy Warhol's short films. No one today is going to get that reference. Do you think people in the 60s got it that weren't part of the New York art scene? Did the general person know about a Andy Warhol short film? I have no idea.
Based off of the box office, no, is what I'm guessing.
I guess.
What does surprise me a little bit about this is the reception. The Rotten Tomatoes score is 71%. Now, that is only off 21 reviews, several of which I'm sure are retrospective.
Yeah, probably the Criterion brought in the most reviews, I would think.
For those of you who don't know, Criterion did a BBS box set that was it's a fantastic box set, to be very, very clear. It is and that's the production studio of Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider, which is kind of preceded by Raybert Productions, which is what did the Monkees television show, that eventually kind of morphs into BBS Productions when they take on a third partner, Stephen Blonner. And that group does things like Five Easy Pieces, The Last Picture Show, Hearts and Minds, The King of Marvin Gardens, like not I mean, some pretty classic movies of that 1970s kind of new Hollywood era. Easy Rider is in there too. Drive, he said, stuff like King of Marvin Gardens too. Like all of that's in this BBS set, and it's actually, I think, a really, really great set with this great snapshot of kind of just the kind of different world that it was, where you could be this kind of trailblazing group that just kind of burned your way in almost by sheer willpower. And for most of them, it led to pretty extended success. So the Criterion, this isn't the Criterion Collection, to be clear. It is in that BBS box set with a lot of other great things. I mean, obviously, The Last Picture Show is a fantastic film. That's not any of them, though. That is obviously done by the guy's name is Peter Bogdanovich. But anyway, that leads us to this, to Head. And so audience score is also 71%. That did surprise me a little bit too. It is says
because the only people that have
reviews.
heard of this are people that have like sought it out or watched that. I guess I'm still a little surprised though. It's still pretty high.
It's still
because I'm one of those
than I
people that
expected.
bought that
I would have
box set
expected-
and
I would have expected this to be a little bit more like a little bit more down the middle, where like there's people
Yeah.
who hear about it and watch it, and I don't know if just the general attitude of the filmmakers and the band going into this has been made clear now, and that is kind of color, because like you said, generally speaking, if you're watching Head, you know who the band is, you know what their story is at this point, and you know the attitudes and mindset that they had going into this movie.
or you
So-
co-host a movie podcast. And your
friend made
co-host
you
is
watch
like,
it.
yeah.
So anyway, horrible box office, which is why it is on the show. And the reception at the time, while it is softened over time and is leaning more towards positive now, the reception at the time was horrid. Like, it was absolutely miserable. The trailers called it, like, I think they literally said the most extraordinary horror, adventure, Western comedy, love story, mystery, drama, musical, documentary, satire ever made, and that's putting it mildly. Which, if somebody put that on anything today, I would be like, I hate you off the bat. Like, I can't believe you made me read all that. There were no pictures of the monkey on the original poster. It was one of the first films to be advertised with an MPAA rating. And it was horribly received. There was an audience response in August of '86 that made the movie lose almost 30 minutes of its runtime. It went from 110 minutes to 86 minutes. Lucky for you. Can't imagine how you reacted.
One of my hashtag PP. I'll say up front, a lot to say. I don't hate this movie. I'm more perplexed by it, if anything. But 85 minutes is the right runtime. I have no idea what that 30 minutes was lost, but like they made their point in 85 minutes. I don't know what you gained by 30 more minutes.
Right. It was not a commercial success because essentially what you had was a successful band that had been on a successful sitcom that had successful music, and then you released a movie that was basically a scathing takedown of the show itself. Told in a very abstract art house way with a lot of relatively, and we'll talk more about this in scenes and stuff. There's creative stuff being done here from a technical perspective, but the story is told in a very abstract way. A lot of very odd choices. And whether you enjoy that or not is not the point. It is not the show. You basically made a movie of a band from a show that was nothing like that show, and kind of actually was more of like chastising the audience for liking the show. It's the Joker 2 of its time.
Yeah, you beat me there. Yeah, I'm trying to think of another something similar where like the original creators revisit not even revisit, just make a new project shortly after the original, and it's I mean, subverting is putting it mildly, but yeah, like you said, burning down that original image. And Joker 2 did come to mind. I don't know if you'd be offended by the comparison.
I certainly enjoy the Monkees a lot more than Joker 2, which is to say that I like watching this movie. I don't enjoy watching Joker 2, hashtag PP. But, and it is, yeah. But anyway, like I said, I got there the same way that you did, where like a guy that makes a movie, a creator of a thing makes another project with that group that seems to largely be a scathing takedown of that original thing. Now, just because it is a scathing, like you can make a scathing takedown of something that's still not good, and you can make a scathing takedown of something that has more to say, which is where I feel like this lands a little bit more. So, but like I said, and also like you said, it was a very groomed public image that the Monkees had that the counterculture movie essentially was trying to deconstruct. You essentially made a movie. You talk about like, we talked about this a little bit with Detroit Rock City, in that like they made a nostalgia movie for Kiss for the wrong generation. Essentially, they made a nostalgia-filled teenage comedy about Kiss, but tried to market it to teenagers who didn't listen to Kiss. Right. And with Head, you made a movie that assumedly, you wanted fans of the band to go see, but then the movie you made was not for fans of the Monkees. Like it's a similar, I mean, it's not at all really similar, but just that same idea of like the thing you made really wasn't for the people that would come and see it. And so any reception or legacy that it's gained has largely been retrospective, because at the time, the idea of making a Monkees movie that wasn't for fans of the Monkees, it's still insane. Like, it's still a weird thing to do. Like, it's still like, there's no real good answer there. It's a weird thing to do. But there's been a lot of discussion of this movie. There's been a lot of I mean, this episode has been basically me monologuing for 40 minutes at this point. But but I'm the one with the knowledge, folks. And ultimately what this does is it kind of kills the band in a way. And some will say that was the intention. Some will say that, like, Bob Rafelson, who we'll talk about in a minute, wanted to be free of this and all of the various different things. I'm getting a little ahead of myself at this point, but the point.
A little what of yourself?
A little blowjob of myself. Sorry. That was good, Andrew.
Nailed it.
Anyway, in that regard, we're talking a lot about the creative teams of this movie. We're talking a lot about what it meant. Let's talk about that creative team. This movie is written by Bob Rafelson, one half of Raybert Productions, and Jack Nicholson. Yes,
so
that Jack
wild.
Nicholson, which is just still one of the most insane things to me, is that Jack Nicholson co-wrote a Monkees movie. It is such a strange thing to say out loud.
I haven't looked it up, but correct me if I'm wrong here. You could probably count on one hand the number of movies Jack Nicholson has been a writer or director on. Like, it's something he rarely does, right? Or did.
There's 8 things I see where he's listed as a writer or a director. The last one being in 1990, when he directed the Two Jakes, which was a pseudo sequel to Chinatown. He was a director on Going South. He was a director, writer, and producer on Drive, She Said. Since 1971, he has directed 2 things. He does a lot of that early on, kind of when Raybert Productions and BBS Productions are kind of hashing it out. He's a writer only on The Trip. He's a writer and producer on Ride in the Whirlwind. He's a writer on Flight to Fury. He's a writer only on Thunder Island. And then he is.
I haven't heard of almost any of these movies,
right?
But in a 60+ year career, a handful of times he's been a writer, and one of them is the Monkees movie. It's wild.
Yeah, since he was a writer on the Monkees movie, he directed 3 things and wrote 1. So since wrote the Monkees movie, you got nothing more to accomplish there. What are you going to do next? But anyway, obviously Jack Nicholson's career speaks for itself. I mean, he's a legendary actor. I'm sure we've talked around him several times. Largely retired these days. I don't think he's done any fiction, like any acting appearances since about 2010. I think he's just shown up as himself. I think the last things he's shown up and was part of were the SNL anniversary specials. But obviously, I don't. There's nothing to say else about Jack Nicholson as far as I'm concerned. His career speaks for itself. But
yeah.
This is very early on. Easy Rider is the next year. When is King of Marvin Gardens is in 72. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest at 75. This is 7 years before One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That's like crazy to me to just really try to conceptualize that.
Because it's the 50th anniversary of Cuckoo's Nest this year. It's also coming back to theaters, by the way. I don't know if it's getting a 4K, which I'm definitely getting. I don't know if I'm going to the theaters to watch it. What about you, man? It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But is that a movie that I can't wait to eat popcorn and watch this? It's a little.
No, not quite. Now, so Jack Nicholson's career speaks for itself. Now, Bob Rafelson he's very interesting in that he kind of fades from he does direct things into the 80s and the 90s and a little bit into the 2000s. But he is considered one of the key figures in the founding of that new Hollywood movement in the 70s, which was, that was kind of the era of Robert Altman and Richard Donner and Brian De Palma, and the rise of those people was seen as part of new Hollywood. Francis Ford Coppola, Dennis Hopper, all of those people are coming from this, and he's seen as a very key figure in that. But he does start off with television, and that's where he comes up with the Monkees, which was designed to be kind of. Now he insists that his idea predated A Hard Day's Night, which a lot of people kind of see as the easy analog, where the Monkees sitcom was just supposed to be watching this band in the weird hijinks that are their lives, in between performances and music videos and performances and various things of that nature. So that's whatever. I don't necessarily believe that. It's always that, I actually had the idea first. It's like, I don't know that anybody could really do
potentially
that.
Spice World was ripping off the Monkees, not the Beatles.
Yes, possibly.
Okay.
Because, are you implying Harry and Lloyd lied? I don't think so, Chris.
No.
So the success of the Monkees, though, gave Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider, his partner in Raybert Productions, they were able to get more funding for various things. They established the record company Coal Gems, which released most of the Monkees albums. And their next project after that basically was Head. And so Bob Rafelson and Jack Nicholson were friends. And at that point, he brought on Jack Nicholson and kind of told him. And Rafelson's comments are I may never get to make another movie, so let's make this one 50 different movies. And I guess if you look at it from that regard, it makes a little bit more sense where he's like, well, I'm just going to throw in every possible type of sequence I can because I may never get to do this again. And then obviously he did. He directed movies, like I said, well into the 90s. He would do things like The Postman Always Rings Twice, Blood and Wine, Black Widow, nothing really reached
the MCU movie, right?
Yes. Not the 1987 film with the same name. But he's interesting in that, he does Head, 5 Easy Pieces, and The King of Marvin Gardens in 68, 70, and 72. And that's the peak of his influence, I think. That's when he's, at his most powerful. But, Head and King of Marvin Gardens, both aren't super huge successes out the gate. Largely, retrospectively, were seen as very important and got a lot more kind reviews. 5 Easy Pieces was a little bit more, acclaimed when it came out. That was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor. I think Karen Black got Best Supporting Actress and Best Original Screenplay, which he co-wrote. So he's got he gets some decent clout early in those days, but then doesn't really ever do much more after that. He produces a lot of things. He does do some television stuff that he directs. But largely, and obviously the early success of the Monkees and everything, I doubt he needed to do anything else. Or he was just kind of okay being the shepherd to other people, and that's perfectly acceptable. But this is basically his debut on the scene. So this is interesting to me only in this not only, but in the sense that not just are you watching a Monkees movie that's deconstructing the Monkees, it's done by the guy who created it. So it really is like a Joker 2 thing, where it's not just that somebody came in and was like, let's do something different with this and really kind of take it apart. It's the guy who built it who's saying, let's come in and take it apart. And
because I'm thinking of
fully endorsing him.
Like the Brady Bunch movie, what that does to the material, but that's a different creative force picking up the property, and it's not the original.
Doing something else with it, yeah.
It's not the original creators, and it's not done immediately after the success of the thing, which is just, it's just wild.
So that sets the stage pretty definitively after 45 minutes of discussing. Any other Monkees questions, folks? You can feel free to ask me. I know more about them than I likely should. But anyway, I think with that said, we're ready to dive into some actors and some scenes, Chris. So are you ready?
Hey. Yes, I am.
The Monkees are a pop group making their first feature film. The film consists of several vignettes, montages, and music videos, and eventually, the Monkees try to escape the movie. They cannot. That's really it, in a nutshell.
I guess. I guess.
I actually, while I was watching this, just documented what was happening in the movie as it unfolds, and I read it back, and I'm like, this is a fever dream. This is there's recurring elements, and I would say obviously the thing that gets pointed to the most is that the recurring thing throughout the movie is the Monkees are trying to escape from the things of which they are in. They are walking off film sets. They are walking through background matte paintings. They are trying endlessly to just not be in these things they keep being forced to be in. And every time they think they've gotten out, they just get thrown back in. And it ultimately happens all the way to the end of the movie. We'll talk more about that with scenes, but
if someone's listening that hasn't seen this movie, just so you know how it plays out, we'll be in a scene. It'll be like a Western, it'll be a war film, it'll be not any kind of genre you recognize. There's just a scene happening. And then usually something happens, like a character might kiss another character, and they are kissing in a new scene. And when the camera pulls back, we're now in a new location in a new scene. It kind of is almost dreamlike like that, where it just snaps to a new scenario with no explanation. We don't know why the last one happened. We don't know why this one happened. And sometimes, like you said, they will literally walk from one set to another, be wearing the costume from the previous set. Sometimes there's a musical sequence, like it's like a concert film, and then we just bleed right into the next scene. It's wild because, like, I feel like I can tell you, like, sort of the overall, this movie is about the Monkees, like the group of people known as the Monkees, grappling with being called a fake band and manufactured in plastic and trying to exert their own creative control and their own will, but the creative forces around them won't let them. Like, that's what this movie is about, and we see that depicted. But if you pick any one scene or a moment and be like, oh, Chris, why does this happen? Why does a cow talk? Why is there a giant eyeball on the wall? What does this represent? I have no idea. I have no idea why any of this stuff is happening. I know, like I said, the overall thing, but if I zoom in any more than that, I don't know. And great, I've only seen the movie once, I'm not but I don't know how much.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know how much studying this movie, if you would ever be able to scene by scene say how it's informing the overall narrative. I don't know.
There's moments where, like, I see it, and it is like the eye, like Davy being the only one that sees the eye. I read watching it now as like Davy was under more of an eye than some of the other members of the band. Like, I talked about the influence that like Davy Jones had on literally like other shows. So in a way, is it like, does Davy feel that like he's being watched more than the other members of the band are to an extent?
Well, there is that sequence.
It's a snap and you miss it, but it's still a moment where you could be like, oh, is that literally just a thing that's there specifically to call out that, Davy felt like, he was being watched in a way that the others weren't.
Does that like big eye come after the sequence where they're like on a tour and Davy keeps seeing stuff that like he sees someone drop dead and tries to point it out and like, oh, come on, Davy. And so it's like he's starting to see the seams and people are like, no, get back in line. I guess that's kind
essentially.
Of okay.
And then ultimately he sees the eye that he just feels is kind of watching him the whole way. And like I said, I'm not saying any of this is necessarily good.
By the end of this podcast, I'm like, this is a masterpiece. This is a master.
Andrew,
this is a master.
Right. You're just Danny DeVito you're just like, oh my God, I get it. Like, now, don't get me wrong. There's still there's a lot of this stuff that's like parodying the product placement. Like Mickey going to a Coke machine in the middle of the desert is a classic commercial setup, but then it subverts it by the machine's empty. And so he's just mad now. Like, it's, it's something where like it even has the Coke jingle. So there's these weird moments where this movie is just flying in these very, very strange ways. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, Chris, you know what we got to do first? We got to talk about this cast. We got to look at our Mark Strong Award. We got to look at who is the Mark Strong Award winner for the Monkees' 1968 first and only theatrically released film, Head. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, Chris. This is a difficult thing.
It is. I will, since we got a bit of a role reversal here. I'm gonna go first, but I agree it's very difficult. This is tough. I think. Here's what I'll say. This movie is my only real exposure to the Monkees. It's, music or otherwise. If I've heard one of their songs, I don't remember hearing it. I've never watched the show. So like this movie is all I know about them. I'm going to give my Mark Strong Award to my favorite member of the Monkees. Again, I've only seen this movie. And it's the man we were just talking about, Davy Jones. Davy's getting my Mark Strong Award for some of the scenes we just discussed. For my favorite scene we will be discussing. Andrew, I texted you picture of the Monkees and I recast them with modern actors, like if they were to do this now, he's the Zac Efron. I would pick Zac Efron to play Davy Jones. I mean, yeah, that's where my gut had to go. Of the band, who was my favorite? One of my favorite scenes, it's Davy Jones. I don't mean to immediately make this sound backhanded. I don't know if Davy Jones is doing anything different that elevates the movie like we normally kind of describe the Mark Strong Award, but like he is my favorite one on screen, so I got to make it just as simple as that. Point to him and say, yeah, Davy, you're my guy.
I think this is a good pick. Some of my favorite sequences in this movie are with Davy. He gets some really interesting, really kind of fever dream sequences that he gets to dive into. And you can definitely see that the movie, like I said, I think the movie is very much kind of pointing to him when, you know, he's got these frustrations over kind of this eye that he sees himself under. In a way, just kind of being like this kind of face of the band. You know, the pretty face of the band. Like, I still like the Brady Bunch movie. I just love that sequence where he shows up, but it's all the old teachers that are the ones that are enamored with him. None of the younger kids have any idea who he is. Wait,
Davy Jones shows up
in the Brady Bunch movie? Yes, as Davy Jones.
Andrew, why would I know that? I don't. I didn't know that. So that's a whole.
You know, Davy Jones is in the Brady Bunch movie, though, right?
No, I have no idea what we're talking about, Andrew. I'm about to Google it. Do they say Davy Jones of the Monkees? Or are you supposed to just recognize him and know?
You're supposed to. Well, and then the two other members of the Monkees are the judges with him at the talent show. So the Brady Bunch movie, she invites Davy Jones to sing at the prom, right? And then she gets booted out of the car by the jerk, and then she gets picked up by Davy Jones in his limo, who's looking for the high school. He then sings I
see the judges: Peter Tork, Mickey Dolenz, Davy Jones. They got nameplates. Andrew, yes. I never knew those were the Monkees.
Anyway, Davy Jones is in that movie. He actually sings a song at the prom. He sings like a hard rock infused version of his song "Girl," which is not a Monkees song, but a song that was a semi-hit before the Monkees were famous. But anyway, that kind of teen heartthrob Davy Jones, that was kind of the thing. And I think they play off of that a lot here. They give him some truly weird, baffling storylines. But I think this is a good pick. I think he gets a decent amount to work with here. Watching it back, I was interested in some of the other members of the band and how kind of little they have to do. And I don't know if that was like deliberate choices. I don't know if that was, I don't quite know how that shakes out. There's probably a greater dive into it than everything that I already know. But anyway, I think this is a good pick. We'll be talking more about Davy Jones in a bit when we get to scenes. But I think I will go with another member of the Monkees. I will go with Mickey Dolenz as my Mark Strong for head. I think he also gets a lot to dive into here. He was the other de facto kind of face of the band, sang a lot of their big hits along with Davy Jones, played the drums, which he didn't know how to do before he joined the band, before he joined the show, learned how to play them when they started transitioning into kind of live performance, and he needed to be able to do that. And he gets a lot of really weird sequences here, some of which still make me laugh. And in that regard, he's also kind of carrying this in the same way that Davy is. I think as the movie goes on, the movie kind of shifts to Davy. Davy ends up kind of being the conduit through which like the finale of the movie really happens.
Yeah, it starts very Mickey heavy, yeah.
So Mickey is kind of carrying it in that first half, and then it kind of transitions to Davy. But in that first half with Mickey, there's stuff that just, like when the woman dies of the poison, but they're on the set, he just starts nudging her with his foot, and he's like, come on, get up, you're not dead. Like, come on, like, don't stop wasting my time. Like, and then he just, like, gets hit with the fake arrows, and he knocks them off, and then he just literally walks through the painting. Like, there's almost like it's funny because, like, the end of Blazing Saddles does this same joke. Like,
that's in my notes. I mean, at the end of this movie, Head, they go really hard with quickly running through like different scenarios and scenes. And my note is it's a very Blazing Saddles ending, which is reversed. Blazing Saddle is a very Head ending, apparently.
Yeah, but So Mickey gets a lot of interesting stuff to kind of dive into at the beginning, like watching him blow up a Coke machine with a tank will never not be funny to me for some reason. And yeah, so getting that first half kind of Mickey-centric, I think he does a lot with that. He kind of shows that weariness as well. And don't get me wrong, it's not lost on me that this is basically a bunch of rich white dudes really upset that they're famous. Like, that's really all this is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because it's again, you would think based off of the kind of attitude that this had been they'd been locked into this for like a decade. You would think that's what this was. Like, if the Beatles made this movie in like 1976, I would have bought it almost, like, I would have understood to an extent. Just like, don't get me wrong, like, we're successful, but like, we're kind of tired of just being seen as the Beatles, and we kind of want to go somewhere else. They had been the Monkees for 2 years. Like, it's not like this had been like their entire lives at that point. So that does always sit in the back of my brain that I'm just like, wow, you guys were really upset after having to do this for 2 whole years.
The Beatles are still the Beatles, and then in a 2-year span, we had this Beatles knockoff that gets sick and tired of their fame.
So that is not lost on me, but despite that, and I don't know that like the whole movie was meant to be like, we hate the fame, we hate the success. I think it was dialing into very specific things that like the studios and the television networks were just like, we want the Monkees, we want this image. And this movie was a chance to break away from that image, and they took it. And I can't fault them for that. When you have a chance to do something like that, take your shot. I'm never going to fault anyone for taking the shot, even if I don't necessarily care for the final product. We've said that about plenty of things over the years. We're just like, I don't know that this is working for me, but I'm glad that it's out there and it exists. And I can speak to that for this as well. I like this movie on the rewatch. But I can definitely see how people are like, I don't know that this is quite what I would think, but I'm glad they got to do it. And
would you say Mickey Dolenz is your favorite member of the Monkees?
No, that would be Mike Nesmith.
Oh, okay.
But we'll talk about him next. So we got 2 more members of the Monkees, and really the Monkees are the cast of this movie. There are a variety of cameos and various things. We can mention them throughout scenes as it comes up. But we'll kind of take the Monkees, and then that's really kind of your main cast. So let's talk Michael Nesmith. He is probably my favorite member of the band. When he reunited with the band in the 2010s, I was actually really happy with that. I got to see them in concert. It was Mike, Mickey, and Peter. Davey had passed by that point. And I was glad I got to see that. But he is interesting in that I think he has the least to do in this. There is one sequence where I would say he's kind of given the focus. It's the cop's dream sequence. But other than that, he's kind of mostly just along for the ride. And I don't know if that's meant to be like a takedown on kind of what his role in the show was, which was just kind of the tall, weird one. But it was more than that. Peter was also the weird one. But it is not a lot to his performance, in that he's just kind of reacting to a lot of things, or just kind of in the shot, not even necessarily doing a whole lot. But that dream sequence, he has a very particular scathing monologue where he talks about how, I'm supposed to be excited, I'm supposed to be happy, I'm supposed to be this and this, but I'm not. Like, so, I don't have to be happy about this. All that varying levels of venom that he kind of spits at his own fame. But I like Mike Nesmith a lot. I think he's definitely like I would almost call him a musician first. Whereas I don't know that, like Davey and Mickey, I don't necessarily know that I'd call them musicians first. But like I said, he writes Different Drum in 1964, which is 2 years before the show, which becomes a hit. He then takes on a lot. He's one of the main forces for like, I want to contribute more to this band. He ends up writing songs like Mary Mary, The Girl I Knew Somewhere, Tapioca Tundra, Circle Sky, listen to the band, some of their best songs. And then has success afterwards. Forms a country group, the First National Band, that has a hit song, Joanne, and then a variety of different things of that nature. He's also the founder of Pacific Arts, which is a multimedia production distribution company, where he kind of helps invent what becomes the MTV version of the music video. And on top of all of that, his mother invented liquid paper. So a very interesting individual with a very interesting life. And he's probably my favorite member of the Monkees, just because I think he, the influence that he wanted to assert, I think is very respectable. I think he's got a genuine musicianship that he wanted to be able to show off, and a respectability that he wanted to have. And I think his actions in no small part are part of why the Monkees were able to assert more control. And ultimately, I think he's got a pretty good legacy with his part in the band, and then ultimately what he was able to succeed with afterwards. And I'm just a big fan.
Do you know who your sister's favorite member is?
It might be Mike. I don't know. Can ask. See
Okay.
if she responds by the time we're done recording.
Yeah, I'm curious to know. It is interesting that a member that is so instrumental in pushing for more creative control is utilized the least of the band in the movie. It could, by design, like you were saying, it could be, we lost 30 minutes of this movie, apparently. They could have been...
It's possible, yeah.
Mike heavy
that
scenes.
definitely... it could have been that it was like designed in fours, where like each band member kind of had a whole, kind of sequence that was theirs, and then when you cut it down, you kind of lose the Mike segments and the Peter segments. You end up with just,
again, with this movie being my only exposure to the band, Mike and Peter, Peter being Peter Tork, they kind of feel like almost like Stan and Kyle from South Park, where they're basically interchangeable characters and both kind of the voice of reason type character. I guess it's more Peter. Peter talks down Davey a few times and seems to be sort of a more focused one. He's the one that says that line that I used earlier about a man with sense of, you don't lend money to a man with sense of humor, or whatever. I don't know, I got it in my notes somewhere, but he seems to be kind of more of a straight and narrow kind of guy. But again, I couldn't, gun to head, I couldn't tell you too many distinctive personality differences between Mike and Peter.
Yeah, my sister just responded. She likes all of them, but singles out Mike. And then asked me why I was asking. But
I love that she had to say she likes all of them. Like they're my children. I can't pick a favorite, but if I had to, it'd be Mike.
I don't care for Job. Anyway, Peter Tork, our last member of the Monkees. Another one that was definitely a musician, played bass and also keyboards on all those Monkee songs that he was known for. Did sing a few, not nearly as many. He had a very people kind of pointed out that he was probably the weakest vocally of the Monkees. But he is here, like you said, is kind of a weird voice of reason. Also kind of like the inner monologue to a degree. Like there's a scene where he hits this waitress and he's very kind of upset that the movie is portraying him as hitting a woman. He just thinks that that's not cool. He's very upset by that. And it eventually kind of gives way to another one of the musical sequences. But that's kind of his role here. And like when we're kind of, he almost does the Last Jedi thing where he basically speaks the theme of the movie to the band at one point, but he kind of stops from going full bore because they kind of hold it back just a little bit. But he kind of has this whole monologue where he talks about how, reality and fiction and the way that fiction is portrayed have this ability to blend together and you almost can't tell them apart. And he's obviously speaking to their experience where like the fictional history of the band on the show kind of became what was expected as their real history as people. And it wasn't, but it was still kind of the weird expectation. And it was, but it doesn't quite go full bore with like, setting the tree on fire and everything. But I do like what he's doing here. But yeah, and it's a great point to call out that, we lost almost 30 minutes of this movie. It's very possible that Peter and Mike's kind of more significant contributions did end up on the cutting floor, because by having that Mickey-centric front half showing the general frustration at kind of being trapped in the box, and then the Davey segments as we kind of get increasingly more and more in, where he's the one that finally is like, nah, man, we're done. We're breaking out of this. That I think that creates, such as it is, a better symmetry for the movie to function off of than whatever. But I don't know if that longer cut exists. I don't know if the footage is there. I have no idea. That's I don't quite know if it's there. But it is a But those are essentially our 4 cast members. There are, like I said, various cameos from a variety of different people. Terry Garr, known for her work in things like Young Frankenstein, Mr. Mom. You've got Annette Funicello, Frank Zappa, Sonny Liston. Dennis Hopper has like a non-speaking
Sonny
cameo.
Liston. So like he's I assume he's the boxer in the movie.
Yes.
Who appears in a few scenes giving like the obvious weakest punches, but they're reacting to him like they're getting knocked out.
Real, yeah.
I had no idea it was like a real Sonny Liston.
Yeah.
It was a real life famous boxer. That's so funny.
Right. We do get cameos as well from Bob Rafelson and Jack Nicholson during like they call cut during one of the waiter scene or the waitress scene where Peter punches the waitress. Like it cuts and it's Jack and Bob like walk into the shot and they're like, and that's when Peter's like, hey man, like, you know, I don't think people are gonna dig this, man. Like I feel like this is really there, but so stuffed with like cameos that like you're not gonna know now, but like at the time that could have been, you know, I'm not sure how, you know, if somebody saw Annette Funicello in the Monkees movie was like, oh hey. Did they? I don't know. I have no idea. But it is a like, you know, so there's a very so there is more characters in the movie, obviously. Several recur throughout different scenes, but our cast is the Monkees. That's what it is. It is their movie. But with the cast out of the way, Chris, it's time to get into scenes. Let's talk about the scenes of the Monkees film Head. And as always, we're going to start at the top. We're going to start with our favorite scenes of this fever dream of a movie. So, Chris, I'm going to start with you. What is your favorite scene in this movie, and why is it the shampoo commercial?
My favorite scene in this movie. This is such a weird thing because all this movie is scenes, which like duh, yeah, that's what all movies are. They're made up of scenes, but like it's there's no like narrative thrust. Like, oh, whenever, you know, this storyline comes to a head, pun intended, I guess. But there's it's like if you've seen this movie, you know what my struggle is right now. But unequivocally, I have a favorite scene because literally it starts off like really loud and gets your attention. And it's just a really rad sequence. And it's basically a music video thrown into the middle of this movie. It is Davy Jones doing a solo song. I believe the song is called Daddy's Song, which is like an upbeat pop song, but it's about like a dad walking out on his son, which is an interesting sort of dichotomy between the music and feel and the darker lyrics. And he's on a very minimal stage. I believe he starts off on like the dark black stage with a white suit and a dark shirt. And he's doing like the most basic sort of jig around the stage as he's singing it. And then it'll switch with like a snap to him on a white stage in a dark suit. But he's doing, again, very basic dance moves, but these switches from one set to another are so seamless. He's in like the same dance move mid-move as it bounces back and forth, and it's so visually striking and so cool. And then at some point, a woman comes out to dance with him, so now we have two people on these stages switching back and forth, and it starts getting like, by the end of the song, it is rapidly switching back and forth. For most of it, it's like from the same vantage point, the same shot. And then we start having like different, like the dark stage, the camera will be like 3/4 up high. And then the white stage will be looking straight at him. But it's still rapidly switching back and forth between the two of them. Like the amount of work had to have gone into setting this up, filming these things, getting the choreography to match, and then editing the damn thing in 1968.
Yeah, my God. Like,
wild. Like, it would be hard today, but at least today you could have both of them up on your computer screen and just toggle back and forth. You could line them up perfectly, but like, you're doing this in the 60s. You're physically cutting
like
film and putting it
frame.
together.
Like,
it's nuts.
Frame by frame.
And synced with, I really don't know how you synced with music too. Like, I I'm bad. I don't know enough about the technology at that time to really know how they did it, but I know it was insanely difficult. And the end result is striking. It's incredible. Like as a standalone music video, it's so good. We were joking a little bit about this before we hit record because we kind of both mentioned we like the sequence. But like, if you were to ask me, like, oh, okay, Chris, well, what leads to that great sequence? Oh, the band gets sucked up in a vacuum cleaner off of someone's head, but Davey doesn't quite go all the way in. He falls back out the vacuum cleaner and starts the sequence. Oh, that's really weird. Well, what happens after it? He walks through a door. Frank Zappa's there with a cow, and the cow talks to him about how crazy the Monkees are. It's like, what does that have to do with the whole sequence? Nothing unrelated, but that's the kind of movie this is. But that I think you could show that scene to anybody, no context needed, because there really isn't any anyway, and they would be impressed by what they pulled off.
So I love that you picked the scene. This is actually my favorite scene as well, because I've seen this video outside the context of the movie before, and just was, again, just struck by how complicated it was to just craft this. Like, so a little bit of background here. This choreography and actually the dance partner are both Tony Basil. The Hey Mickey, You're So Fine. That song.
That's who that is?
Sings, records that. That's who the dance partner is, and she choreographed the dance as well.
Okay.
So she used to do a lot of that, like film choreography, before she got kind of that one hit song. So she is the dance partner. She is the person who put together the choreography. And I can only imagine they must have filmed this, 20 times with each set, and just give yourself so many options. And they may not have. Film is expensive, and this movie is not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. But like, there's and it's interesting too, because there are like cuts that are just like not jump cuts, but we're switching angles, and there's no real attempt to create a continuity. There's moments where, we're cutting back and forth between two different things. Like there's one where the dark shot is a close-up of his face, and the other one is like his legs dancing. But then it starts cutting into, like you said, it gets increasingly more complicated in a way, because you add the dance partner. But what I love about it is that it's cutting to different angles, but the choreography is consistent. So like,
yes.
The dark stage shot is dead on. The light stage shot is like a 3/4, but the action is seamless. It's cutting at the exact right moment between them. And to be able to choreograph it so tight that you're able to do that is just, I can't imagine having to do that at the time. So like, and that's kind of like it's kind of the, I don't know what the right word is, but it's
almost paradoxical that in a movie like this, you get a gem like this. A movie that feels like it's slapped together has something that was meticulously planned.
Right. Not like just to the highest degree. And like I said, it's just a Davy Jones showcase, like, which is kind of what he did on the show sometimes. So it's not even a sequence that's necessarily deconstructing anything. It's a sequence that's obviously what leads up to it. What follows is wild and ridiculous. But this sequence is just a showcase for Davy Jones. And so it's even more paradoxical in that regard. And that, like, in a movie that seems, determined to kind of deconstruct the Monkees' image, here is a sequence that's just kind of there to remind you that, yeah, Davy Jones can sing and he can dance. I do like this song. It is called Daddy's Song. It is written by Harry Nilsson, who was, a great American singer-songwriter. He has, a lot of entries in the Great American Songbook that he loved. But he is, he wrote more than a few songs for a variety of other people. So he does do this song, but it's not at all like, there's plenty of songs that are like upbeat pop songs, and then you listen to it and you're like, this is kind of sad. You're like, why are we so upbeat about this? I don't understand. But he is, so it's a great song. He plays piano on the record as well. The movie was accompanied by a soundtrack, which was I believe it was the Monkees' 5th album. I don't remember. No, it was their 6th album. Birds, Bees, and the Monkees came out the same year, which is also a very good album. But it is it's a fantastic sequence, just truly honestly. Like I can't speak highly enough about how stunning this is. Just, and like you said, you can say that the dance is not the most complicated thing in the world, and it's probably not, but the way they put this all together is just unbelievable. And it is just astounding, even now. Like, I was just, I'm still taken aback watching this, of just like the sheer, especially for a guy who had like seemingly never done a sequence like this before. This is like purely him just like messing around, and like, maybe the intention was that like to be more simple if they couldn't quite nail it. And then fortunately they were able to kind of go wild with it, and we get the result that we get. And it's just wonderful. It's just one of those things that, when you're watching something and you're just kind of taken aback, because it's not just about what's happening on the screen, it's about the craft that goes into it. This is going to be a wild comparison, but it reminded me a bit of that scene in Sinners, where like the scene just kind of shifts.
That scene,
into that scene in Sinners, where just like suddenly we're panning through this room, and that one's not even necessarily about editing. That one's almost more a masterclass in like staging and blocking and all of those things, where just you're able to pass through the scene and feature so many different things seamlessly without appearing like there's a whole, there's a camera with an apparatus behind it, but it's able to flawlessly move through this room and portray this unfolding sequence that reaches to the past and the future. You're just kind of it's beyond what you're seeing. It's the craft that went into it, and that's kind of how, no, obviously not to that level, I would say, of Sinners, but just similar idea of like, you're watching what is a great performance by Davy Jones of a great song, but they have created this framing of it that takes it to a level that it otherwise doesn't exist at, and that is tremendous. So this is a great pick, Chris. It is my pick as well. I love this sequence. I don't even remember where I saw it out of context. I think it was the Alamo, but I don't remember what I would have been watching at the Alamo to see this.
The first time I saw, as we established on the show, I didn't grow up watching Clue. The first time I saw the I am a singing telegram and then a gun shooter was the Alamo pre-shows. Like, they would do that before they show like upcoming features. I saw that out of context. I had no idea what it was from. And then I found out it was from this movie Clue, and eventually saw it, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, I guess I'm saying it could have been something like that, where they used it out of context just to.
But it was the full video. I definitely remember it was the full video, and I can't really show the full video if it was just like that, like a little clip. So I'm sure it was a music something I was watching. I don't feel like it was a Monkees thing. I feel like it, I'd remember that. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was something else entirely. But I remember seeing this on the big screen somewhere, and I was taken aback, and I was like, man, this is great. Like, this is just, everybody here is firing on all cylinders.
Andrew, without looking at what Wikipedia calls it, what genre is this movie?
Pretentious art house.
Okay.
What does Wikipedia call it?
Satirical musical adventure film.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, satirical, sure.
There's
musical, undeniably.
There's a lot of moments in this movie where my response is basically, I guess. Like, it's,
yeah.
It's a trip.
I thought going into it, like, I knew it was hardly a narrative, just from kind of us discussing it and going into it, but I expected it to be much more comical than it is. There's certainly funny parts, but I would never say, oh, this great comedy called ahead. Like, I don't think it's trying to be a straight up comedy. Satirical, I think, is the best best thing you can do to describe it. But I will say there are funny parts, and my favorite joke in the movie has to be, and forgive me, you can correct me, Andrew, I'm gonna mix up my Monkees. I just know I am, because I don't know these guys super well. I just know this movie that I watched, but I believe what we have here is when Davy is in the bathroom, you have Peter walking through, which essentially is a film backlot, and there's a big commotion going on that Peter's just ignoring. Everyone back there is looking up. You hear a woman screaming, and eventually he finds Mickey and Mike talking to each other, but they're also looking up. And he's trying to get their attention. They're ignoring him. And then finally we look up and see that there's a woman up there in a bikini about to jump or threatening to jump. And Mickey and Mike make a bet on whether or not she'll do it. I believe Mickey says, no way she's going to jump. And Mike says, oh no, she's definitely doing it. They never pay attention to Peter. Peter walks off. He walks into a bathroom. That's where Davy is. Davy's freaking out. He gives him that weird little little nugget of wisdom. Nobody ever lends money to a man with a sense of humor. And as he says that, each word flashes on the screen really large. Again, I have no idea why. But let me get to the big joke here. He walks back out, and now Mike is holding the woman in his arms in a bikini, and Mickey is paying him the bet because clearly he won. Like, it's all inferred that she did jump. He caught her, and while still holding her, he's getting paid his bet because he won the bet that she jumped. I think he throws her into Peter's arms casually, and Peter walks with her for a while and then dumps her, and we just move on to the next scene. But just how much information is just implied just by the next time you see him, he's holding her, I thought was quite funny, Andrew.
It's very funny. I laughed a lot with that too. We're just like, it's like, because they're literally betting on whether this woman's going to jump off a building. And like, obviously the dark implication there is she's trying to commit suicide, but like, literally then flipping it with like, not just did she jump, Mike caught her and now he's owed $10 that he's paying him in ones. Just tremendous. I do love this joke too, because this is as we're getting towards the end and things are getting a little bit more unhinged. Like Peter walks into the bathroom and he's
more unhinged.
More unhinged. This movie I would say it does get more unhinged. It just starts unhinged as well.
Yes.
But I love this sequence. I love that joke. I do want to call out another musical performance, and it's the Circle Sky performance, which is early in the film. It is preceded by a not very subtle, like it's almost implying that like prepping and going to a concert to the Monkees is like going to war. That seems to be the implication here, because like
they're
getting dressed. They're getting dressed for the concert, and then they like run out, and then suddenly they're in the trenches. And then they're like running through the trenches, and then they're suddenly on the stage for the show. A little, I would say, a lot heavy-handed, but it is a thing. But but it leads into this Circle Sky performance, which I think is one of the best sequences of the film as well, from a technical perspective. It doesn't go to quite the levels that Daddy's Song does, but this one is, first off, it's a song called Circle Sky, which is a great song. I like it a lot. It is written by Mike Nesmith. It was kind of designed to be a song they could play live. That he's spoken kind of before that was kind of his intention, was to create a song that they very much specifically could play live. And they did many times. It is, I'm not sure if the version on Head is, I think it is, I don't remember if the version in Head is the live version or not, but several live versions of this song by the band exist. And it is another one where they're just on a stage in front of a crowd. It's a very straightforward, initially, concert sequence. There's a lot of intercut footage of various kind of, sad scenes, but they do a lot of like mirroring shots with the footage. They do a lot of back and forth, where there is a good amount of detail and some real creativity being shown. Like there's a sequence where the band's in the middle and they surround them with the audience. And it's just a really, really great showcase, again, where he's kind of just feels like the director is kind of going for it. And like, okay, if I'm just going to do a concert shot, we're going to make it interesting. I'm not just going to show the band and the audience. I got to find something else to do with it. And I think, whether that's Bob Rafelson or editor Mike Posen, I'm sure it's a collaboration, as all things are, but the result is very, very good.
Yeah, it's a great sequence. It's all in black and white, and the war stuff is like they show like graphic, dramatic war stuff, which I'm having such whiplash because it's so early in the movie. And again, I'm thinking like, is this a comedy? I don't know, but I can't deny like how cool the editing is. Like you said, like what they do with the audience and mirroring shots and mixing them together, and again using 1960s technology to put it all together is extremely impressive. Well, another one of my favorite. To me, it's comedic. I don't know how comedic it's supposed to be, which is a recurring note, by the way. As I'm making notes during this movie, I'm like, oh, that's funny. Is it supposed to be? Oh, I thought this was funny. Is that a joke? At the end of this performance, the fans rush the stage and start tearing them apart, like literally wrestling to the ground, ripping their clothes off. But it's very obvious that they are now mannequins. It's not the actors anymore. They're ripping their arms off. One person's holding one of their heads, but again, it's a mannequin head, and so they're getting like devoured. And it's, to me, it's funny because it's obviously, they're not hiding the fact that they're mannequins. Which we saw a shot earlier when Mickey jumps from the bridge. When he hits the water, he's obviously a mannequin. They do this throughout the movie. I think at one point Mickey like falls over dead and he's a mannequin. Like they do this a lot, which I think can be read as some sort of commentary about them being fake people or fake band or made of plastic. But whenever, in this movie or any movie, whenever you have a stunt and it's obvious that the stunt is being done by a dummy, I think it's inherently hilarious. I thought this was very funny. I don't know how much of it was supposed to be a laugh out loud joke, how much of it was supposed to be a satire or comedy, but got a laugh out of me.
I think it's definitely meant to be like a take on like how the band are like a product. Like they're a variety of different things. Everything you said plus more. But yeah, when they just suddenly are mannequins, that's really funny. There's another sequence where like I think it's the dream sequence where Mike like opens a closet and Mickey falls out and he's very clearly a mannequin and like hits the ground and even breaks a little bit. And I'm like, this is funny. But yeah, this was a great it's I love this sequence, and then the ending just kind of, make sure, just remember you're in the absurd. Don't get too comfortable now thinking this is just suddenly now going to be a regular Monkees movie. But yeah, I love this sequence too. This movie is just it's a fever dream in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like there's so many strange things in it, but I can't deny the technical prowess on display.
They do basically give you a mission statement really early on. I think it's maybe after the war sequence where the entire screen shrinks down to like a small TV screen in the corner. And then they start showing a bunch of TV screens slowly filling up the frame. Each little TV screen is showing a different scene from the movie in a different genre, a different vignette. And I could not take notes fast enough for what the Monkees are saying, but they do like a little a cappella song giving you the mission statement, like saying like this is going to be a little bit of everything. It's going to be all different genres. I don't want to, again, I probably should have looked up what they actually say, but they basically lay out what you're in for. Like, don't, it's not, I think they say something about it not making sense or not making too much sense. If you don't like it, just wait a minute, it'll change. Like they say a lot of information, but they're really like laying out what type of movie this is, which I think is pretty smart to do.
It's like almost a meta takedown of the Monkees theme song. It's the Monkees singing a song that's basically like you said. And, like there's lines like, we hope you like our story, although there isn't one. That is to say there's many. That way there is more fun. Like, or lines where it's like, we know it doesn't matter because what you came to see is what we'd love to give you and give it 1, 2, 3, but it may come 3, 2, 1, 2, or jump from 9 to 5. And when you see the end in sight, the beginning may arrive. Like they're full on just telling you, this is not what you think it's going to be. And there may be moments that are kind of what you wanted, but they're going to be dressed up in a whole different way. And like when you talk about things like the concert sequence with Circle Sky, like that isn't something that wouldn't be out of place for the show. But when you bookend it and follow it up with the things there, that makes it different. The Daddy song, it's preceded by Davey escaping from a vacuum cleaner and then walking out and speaking to Frank Zappa and a talking cow. And like, so you're getting those moments. But they're bookended, and that's there's plenty more I could say about this movie. But it's so that it's called Diddy Diego, called War Chant. That's the name, and it's actually written by Jack Nicholson. He writes this maybe with Bob Rafelson as well. But they come up with this, and so they put the mission statement out there at the beginning that basically they basically tell you this is not what you think it is, or it's if you're expecting the show, this ain't going to be the show, and they are very correct in that regard. So I think, there's plenty more sequences that you can do. I highly recommend giving this a shot at least once if you've never seen it. just to kind of see this stuff on display. There is.
I actually kind of recommend it too. I actually kind of recommend. I'm not doing it anytime soon, probably, but I will watch this movie again because I think it would benefit from a second viewing. Kind of knowing what to expect. Like I said, I go in expecting comedy, and then he jumps into the water. Mermaids come and swim with him, and then it starts getting all psychedelic. I'm like, what am I supposed to be getting out of this? I think a second viewing would be quite beneficial, just knowing the tone and kind of what they're going for, and it's not a straight up comedy or straight up anything. I don't know if I ever love this movie, but I'm with you as far as I'm glad it exists. I'm glad this group got to exert pure creative force and put this thing out there.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at too. I think we've got a director that's got something he wants to show off what he can do. He wants to take some chances. You've got a band who's got an interesting just overall, I don't know that it all works. I don't know that everything lands like it's intended. Or maybe it lands exactly as it's intended, and that's kind of the thing. But for overall, I think this is something that's worth watching. And then I would actually I would recommend watching stuff like 5 Easy Pieces and King of Marvin Gardens, because you're gonna see some stuff. You're gonna see some techniques get repeated. You're gonna see some. You can kind of watch Bob Rafelson develop in real time between all of these different movies. And in that regard, I think it is important to watch for that reason. So thanks for coming with me on this journey, Chris. I spoke for 90% of that episode, so I'm sorry.
I wouldn't have it any other way, Andrew. Another theme down, another month down. That wraps up Real Band Month. Man, I don't want to be too hyperbolic here, but maybe the most variety we've ever had in one theme. I mean, we covered some ground going through Real Band Month. It covered some decades, spending some years, Head now being one of the oldest movies we've covered. We did Batman 66. I think that still holds the record, but only the second movie we've covered from the 60s. Andrew, it was a heck of a ride this month. Heck of a journey, sir.
Indeed. It was funny, it was sad, it was enlightening, and thank you again, especially for coming with me on this journey through the fever dream that is Head. I will consider it a point of pride that we did this on the show, because it is a very interesting movie that I think does deserve to be talked about more than it probably is.
Well, we're going into September, which means a brand new theme on the podcast. We're actually revisiting something we've done not once, but twice before. Turns out it's very fertile ground, Andrew. September is Video Game Month. Turbo, I called it. Video Game Month, Third Strike. It's the third time we're doing it. You know what joke I'm making here.
Yep.
We will be talking about video game adaptations during the month of September. There's still plenty to cover. In fact, there are going to be 5 episodes in September, 5 video game movies to talk about. If you want to see that lineup, you can join our Discord. Hop into the server there. There's a link in the show notes. Come and join us if you haven't already. I mean, what are you waiting for? And until next week, until we kick off Video Game Month, just remember that maybe not every movie is great,
but all movies have greatness.
Thank you to Mark Benavides for singing our theme song. You can follow him on Instagram at NotThatMarkAnthony. Thanks to Mitch for the music. You can follow him on Blue Sky and check our show notes for the SoundCloud link. Check out our store on TeePublic for some Best of the Rest merch. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. That's the only way that we grow. Follow us on social media at BOTRcast. Thank you. You want to say something to the listeners, bud?
Like what?
I don't know.
I don't know what to say.
How old are you going to be next week? Or 2 weeks?
5.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
5 years old. What kind of party are we having?
Mario Kart.
Mario Kart. It's going to be so fun. Okay, say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Have you ever had Monster Zero Ultra?
Monster
The
Zero
white monster?
Ultra. No, my stepdad's addicted to that stuff.
I just
That
don't
one
know what flavor
specifically.
it's supposed to be.
That's
Like, it's
like I
not
got
bad.
a
Just don't know what it's supposed to
prime
be.
like electrolyte sticks, and
Mm-hmm.
the flavors. It's white. It's like that monster, and it's called Meta Moon. I'm like, what is this gonna taste like?
What is a Meta Moon?
What are you doing? Yeah, I don't know. It tasted
What is
good.
it?
I still don't know what to call it, but
You
I
call Meta
googled
Moon?
it. What is? Let's see. Meta Moon flavor. Well, other brands use this too. What does it mean? What is flavor Meta Moon? Okay, this Reddit post, someone said, "What is the flavor of Meta Moon?" to the Prime sub. Top comment says, "Medicine/candy." It tastes what I
What?
imagine candy floss flavored Sprite would taste like.
People are fucking weird, man.
Liquefied candy like Skittles, pineapple cotton candy. All right, yeah, I don't know.
Chris, these are all wildly different answers.
I didn't write them.
I always love that when like everyone's like, "Well, clearly it's this." It's like clearly not. All of you had a different thought here. So anyway, yeah, I've never led the show before, so it's a little different.
Yeah, this will be
We'll see
weird.
if I can figure this out. Yeah. Yeah. Suppose we should.
You want to
suppose we
reverse
should
the
count it
numbers?
up.
Yeah.
No. I don't want to. We can't go that far.
Start the count.
All right, let's count it up, Chris. 1,
2,
3,
4,
5.
6. That's weird.
That is. Let's never do that again. But okay. I guess I'll just start. I wonder if even the listeners are going to realize that it's strange that I'm leading this instead of you.
They're like, this feels different, but I don't know why.